All right, DPReview TV viewers, this is my moment. I have driven this car in Gran Turismo. I can do this. I'm half Japanese.
Sir, please, what are you doing?
Please let me drive this.
No.
I can do it. I want to drift.
You're out.
I'm turning 40 this year. I need this. Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. Chris Niccolls here, and I'm joined by my co-host, Carey Rose from DPReview.com.
Hey there, everybody.
And we're out here to take a look at the brand new Canon launch. We've got the Canon EOS 90D.
And the little bit more petite M6 Mark II.
Now, of course, Canon did fly us out here for a press event. You know, they got us hotels, all that kind of stuff. But as usual, DPReview.com, we're going to give unbiased reviews and our thoughts on these cameras. Now, you may have possibly heard the incredibly loud noise around us. We're actually shooting at Michelin Raceway, Road, Atlanta. Awesome racetrack. Canon's got us out here. We're going to shoot some cars drifting. We're going to get some model shots. Now, I also want to mention that Levi Holwell is joining us here shooting the video. Jordan wasn't able to make it on this trip, but he's going to be shooting on both the 90D and the EOS M6 Mark II, so it'll give us a good example of what this is going to look like. I like this hat on you, Carey. I think you're pulling it off.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, it's, you know, that's more, there we go. That's a little better.
Is that a little bit better? Okay. I'm just going to choose to look good. All right, so to start off the day, I'm going to be on the Canon EOS 90D.
Yep, and I'm going to be on the M6 Mark II, take it for a test drive.
We're testing both today because at the heart of them, they're quite similar.
Correct.
A new 32.5 megapixel sensor, Digigate processor. Yep. What really is going to differ is the handling, some of the controls, some of the designs.
Right, and the viewfinder, obviously you can see the M6 Mark II doesn't have one built in, but they have this electronic add-on unit. It's actually pretty sweet. I mean, it's a good size, it responds really well, and if I want to take it off for a smaller kit, I can do that. You, on the other hand, are stuck with a permanently bigger camera.
Well, back to an optical viewfinder, although that is traditionally the sort of sports and action kind of genre that is made for these cameras. So
absolutely. We'll
see how they do. This has a 45-point autofocusing system.
Correct, so there's actually now, in that, so it's the optical viewfinder focus system. It's got Canon's ITR tech, and this time now it will recognize faces through the optical viewfinder, which is actually new for this series of cameras. Yep. I want this car to have those tires where they put off pink smoke.
Oh.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So the 90D has an improved frame rate. We can shoot 10 frames per second with autofocus tracking, 11 if I don't need that. But surprisingly, actually, your camera's gonna have an advantage here. Hey?
It goes faster. This goes up to 14. I mean, you don't get live view, you get a little kind of the 14 frames per second slideshow.
Right.
But honestly, I find once you get over 10 frames a second, that slideshow effect doesn't bother me personally. It's fast enough where, as long as it's not like super fast action, I don't have a problem with it.
The other thing that kind of I'm going to be missing here is you have a raw burst mode.
I do indeed, yeah.
The raw burst mode is an interesting feature. This is where it'll shoot roughly about 70 to 80 frames. There is a slight crop, but you're going to get this 30 frame per second burst, and you get a pre-buffer, so you can be off about half a second on that dynamic moment you want to capture, and then just rewind and go back to it. Yeah, and a la kind of like Panasonic Olympus kind of thing.
Yeah, and you get about, what is it? You get like 1 or 2 seconds after the fact, so you get the half second before and about second and a half, 2 seconds afterwards. It should be pretty fun to mess with.
Yeah, I kind of want that on here. I don't know why I don't have it.
We can trade it sometime.
Thank you. Yeah, not a great buffer. I mean, we're shooting raw in JPEG, but
same here. I might actually drop the frame rate because it's just I'm running out of buffer really quick.
It is hot.
It's really hot.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I should have worn a different color shirt.
On the EOS 90D, I'm using the optical viewfinder here to really give it a test, right? Yeah. It's working how I would expect. Doing the audio area with the face detection on, it's hit or miss. Like, it will often pick up someone's face, often it won't. If it does get a face, it seems to follow it, but it doesn't always grab it right away.
That's what, yeah.
So in all honesty, I'm now going to live view. It's hard to see the screen in this light, but at least I can touch where I want or start the ITR on a person's face. It's automatically detecting face and eyes. I feel more confident with it, but it's not the way you're supposed to shoot an SLR.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, I don't really have to worry about that. I've got the EVF, and so it's doing that full time. It's actually really nice.
I kind of want to switch over to the EVF.
We'll give it a little bit.
Oh.
How did you get 60th a second?
Look how sharp.
Shooting F18, that's a.
But you.
Oh my God.
That's not bad, right?
That is tack
not
sharp.
Bad,
That's
not
perfect.
bad.
What a wiener. I can barely get 1/125th to work. It's not fair.
What a wiener. Hey, now you got a natural drift photographer.
I was looking, you're getting some pretty solid pans on that camera.
Surprising, because I've never done this before. It's actually the weight of the 90D. It swings naturally, and I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having trouble. This thing is tiny, which is a good thing, but it's tiny, which means I'm actually having trouble slowing my shutter speeds down to get a decent pan. It's one of those things too, it's like these EOS M cameras don't have IBIS. It's actually becoming more the exception now to not have it. So that is something that I'm missing, to be honest.
No IBIS, yeah. This, I think, is actually helping me out. One thing, too, let's remember, we're shooting at f/18 because we don't have NDs, right?
Yeah.
I am going to throw on a polarizer if I can find the appropriate ring, which so far I cannot. Don't give me a hard time when they're not totally sharp. It's diffraction's fault.
Yeah. So one of the things I like about this camera is all the dials. There's a dial on the back, there's a dial on the top, there's a dial on the front. You know, it's a small camera, but it's pretty easy to take control over, and it's working out really well for this sort of fast action thing.
All right, so golf cart's coming to pick us up for lunch. I think it's a good time to switch off, eh?
Yeah, I agree. I've gotten a lot of shooting time, but it's time to see what that is like.
I'm eager to try this.
All right. We're going to the S-curves.
Right here.
We're here.
We're going over the hill.
You're already over the hill.
Well done, sir.
Yes!
Oh.
So it's your first time today using the M6 II, and you put one of the biggest lenses available to us on it, but how does it feel? How's it like to shoot?
It's obviously not balanced the same way the 90D is. I mean, that being said, I don't mind when I've got the lens weight in my left hand, it's all supported. I actually really like the grip. And one thing I will say about the 90D, my first impression, it does feel a lot like an ADD. Some of the buttons are a little mushy, you know, the dials feel a little mushy. I actually really like the way that the M dials are. They're responsive, they click well, the grip is comfortable.
I will say, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is I like this shoulder rear dial, because on the 90D you move your thumb down here.
Yeah.
You have it's twin dials, it's great, but
Yeah.
I like having it even up here.
Yeah. And you know, we're both AF on back button focusers.
Correct, yeah.
I actually much prefer the button on this, right?
Yep, I agree.
The EVF on this camera, it's decent, but I think we still have to remember 2.36 million dots. There are much better EVFs on the market now, although
sure.
at this price point, not so bad.
Totally. What has happened to my panning? Why am I so, ooh, no, that's a good one. Okay.
I've been really liking the tracking AF on this particular camera. I can touch on a subject and it starts tracking. If I touch on a person's face, it'll automatically go to face and eye detect. So very easy to use, very straightforward. Canon's always had a good touchscreen. When I'm doing panning of the cars in particular, then I'm actually going to spot autofocus. I'm focusing on the track, not the cars. And then I just try to keep that square on the same position on the car as I'm panning with it. It just gives me a good sort of visual reference so that I get the car frozen, everything else blurring, and it's working okay. So I've been getting some good success just panning with the cars, just using the standard high-speed drive mode, you know, 14 frames per second, 10 frames per second, like it's all working really well. I did try the raw burst feature, and it's just not well suited for this kind of photography. And here's the reason. It is neat that you get the pre-buffer, it's neat that it takes a very quick burst, but you actually can't track a moving subject very well when you hold down that shutter. You get this huge delay and blackout, and so by the time the picture's actually showing up again, the car's totally off frame. That's the closest we're going to get to racing today. So up to this point, Canon SLRs in live view mode have always used electronic first curtain. It's stable, you don't get a lot of shutter shake, but this is the first Canon now, SLR, in live view to let you have the option to do electronic first curtain or mechanical.
So what that basically means is by switching to a fully mechanical shutter in live view, it unlocks a much faster burst speed. It's almost as fast as just shooting through the viewfinder. So that's really nice if you're shooting action. Maybe you're panning, maybe you're not super concerned about like the perfect crispness from an anti-shutter shock sort of
Great
thing.
for sports or wildlife, something like that, through the live view with the tracking.
Yeah, the kind of quirky thing about Canon cameras is just like you have to be over in the movie mode to access the movie menu.
Right.
That option for the shutter is only available when you're in live view. So you have to go to live view, go to menu, there's a shutter option. But then if you go back out of live view and you go to the menu again, it just disappears. And I just thought I was losing my mind.
Very strange.
Yeah, but hey, it's a nice option to have.
Cool.
I'll link you. There you go. Now it's much better. You're out of the picture. We're not shooting race cars right now, we're still on the race track, but we've tracked down some models, so that's what we're working with now. Chris is using the eye detection on the M6 Mark II. It's working really, really well. I've got the face priority ITR option turned on the 90D through the viewfinder, but I also have the setting enabled where I pick the starting point. So basically you put the point over it, you initiate autofocus, and it tracks it around the autofocus area through the optical viewfinder. Doing that though, I honestly can't tell if it's detected a face or if it's just tracking that area of a person because I put that point over them. So that's just a drawback of having an optical viewfinder. It's hard to tell if it's actually seeing the faces or if it's just kind of doing its own thing. Chris is probably having a little bit of an easier time with that M6 Mark II.
So hey, Carey, let's go to our next location. We're gonna have dinner. We're gonna head to another place. Okay, come on.
No, Chris, that's not our ride. Hop on.
Okay, so we're back, and the first thing, of course, you'll notice this is not Carey Rose. This is Levi Holwell from behind the camera. Carey had an early flight, he had to jet, but we really thank him for being on the show. He did a great job helping us out with that. But this is great anyways to have you now in front of the camera because you did the video work and we want to talk a little about that.
So, of course, we spent all day with both the 90D and the M6 Mark II, and the intention was to actually record the episode, you know, split up between 50-50 between these cameras. When we went to move over to the M6 Mark II, though, we discovered that the lack of headphone jack was going to make it impossible for us to switch over to it because we didn't want to spend the second half of our day without being able to monitor you and Carey's audio.
Yeah, it's
so
too much for
we too big of a risk. We stayed on the 90D and just collected as many samples as we could on the M6
We did shoot
Mark
on
II,
both.
but
although both cameras have the exact same sensor, basically same image quality in uncropped 4K, there still seems to be some features that make the 90D more of a video-centric camera, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about autofocus first.
I felt great about it. I think that the dual pixel AF system is fantastic. It's actually been improved over the course of these models ever since it was implemented in the 70D. So it's one of my favorite things about working with these cameras. So I leaned into it heavily yesterday, and also the implementation of the eye detect autofocus as well seemed to work great. So that was all wonderful. As far as autofocus goes, the one mode that we found that it actually wasn't working in though is this high frame rate mode that the cameras have. So they're capable of shooting 120 frames per second at 1080p, but in that mode there is no dual pixel AF, as I found out when I started tapping the screen as a car was drifting around the corner, and I went, that looks out of focus.
You were shooting 4K 30. Yeah. Of course, no 24p.
Yeah.
You already know it's not there, and it really sucks, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
But when you exit out of that slow-mo, what happens?
Yeah, so when you disable the high frame rate mode, it actually doesn't return you to the frame rate that you were shooting in. It automatically puts you into shooting 1080, 60 frames a second, which is a frame rate that I didn't even touch yesterday. So I was shooting 4K 30.
Anyways.
Yeah, well, exactly. We ended up getting some clips in that frame rate that we didn't really purposefully want. Just definitely something to watch out for. It's a little annoying in terms of how that was implemented.
One of the big surprises really was they shoot 4K 30p. No crop. What? The fact that we have uncropped 4K. Canon has always had a heavy crop on their 4K footage.
And we tested that thoroughly because I was really interested in what that uncropped mode is going to look like. So most of the episode was shot in that mode as opposed to the cropped, because you know now we have a really good examples littered throughout this video of what that uncropped mode looks like.
Now both cameras have uncropped 4K, but oddly enough, again, the EOS 90D has a crop mode.
Right,
in its
you get
4K.
to choose.
You actually get slightly better image quality if cropped, and it just seems weird that the M6 Mark II doesn't have that.
And all those things add up to it feeling like the 90D is a bit of a more obvious choice potentially for video shooters. I mean, again, lots of overlap in terms of spec. The M6 Mark II has that small body and the EVF, so then you get a little split up there. But overall, there's a couple things that Canon has put into the 90D, their SLR body, that are, you know, video shooters are going to want that are not in the M6 Mark II body, which is surprising.
Thank you so much for doing the video.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of people are going to look at these cameras as twins, and in fact Canon markets it that way because they have the same sensor, same processor, and at their core they are very similar. But what we found over this last day is that as you peel back the layers, you actually find that we've got two very distinctly different cameras. You know, the EOS 90D, it does give you that classic SLR, and it was enjoyable to use, but make no mistake, a lot of people are thinking this is going to replace the 7D Mark II series as their faster, better camera. Although it is a rugged body, it is still the lighter, cheaper body that's with the 70D, 80D, and now 90D line. Single card slot, those features are really going to polarize people. Although I like the 45-point autofocusing system, it's just not now as convenient and easy to use as the live view. That's such a big deal. I would far prefer to shoot the 90D for photography off the live view. And so that again makes it a very strange thing. So in my opinion, considering the lower price point, the smaller size, and the fact that we get awesome autofocusing, whether I'm using the EVF or the live view, I think if you're photographically inclined, the EOS M6 Mark II makes more sense for most people. It shoots faster in general. Those are big pluses for somebody taking photos. That being said, if you are finding yourself wanting a stable body, a weather-sealed body that can handle bigger lenses, maybe a little more balanced, the EOS 90D has features there, but I think really if you're into video, that's the main reason to go for the SLR. Anyways, I hope you guys found that comparison helpful. Again, we had very little time with the gear, so as these cameras come onto market, we will look at doing more serious reviews on them. But hopefully you found that useful and it steers you in the right direction, which way you're gonna go in these otherwise quite similar cameras. I also want to say before I go, thank you so much to Carey Rose for being a great co-host on this show. Thanks also to Levi Holwell, did a fantastic job shooting the show and helping me out with the video portion. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, check out Instagram, Twitter. Please subscribe to the channel. Let us know your comments. Let us know what you think about the direction that Canon is going. Otherwise, we'll see you guys soon.